Paranoid Radio.
Kiss. Keep it simple, stupid.
Paranoid.
Tony Boy.
I'm paranoid. I'm paranoid. I'm paranoid. Bitch, I'm paranoid. I'm paranoid. I'm paranoid. I'm paranoid. Bunch of paranoid.
Testicles 1, 2, testicles. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Paranoid Radio Podcast. This is the best show with the best content for the best listeners, and I am the humble host, Trebles Garcia. Ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to jump in from the deep end of the pool and set the fucking moon. Do you believe in life after love? But ultimately, when it's never been, love is the strongest human force in good and evil. I am a father, I am a dancer, I am a husband, and I am also a lost son, and I'm also a found one. I am a conspiracy theorist, and I'm also, importantly, I'm a fucking addict. Tonight, we break and dismantle and obliterate habits. This episode doesn't only need your weak emotional response, but also mental monkey gym splits. It simply needs your also, and ultimately it needs your fucking truth. We carry our stories on our shoulder and pride and adaption on high, but not our addictions. What is your weakness? Family, sound waves, things and thongs, your secret and illegal desires? Today's topic doesn't only put a cap on drug abuse, but also bottlenecks on porn, modelos, best friends, barbecues, mom's cooking, shoe brands, and even pet peeves on how to wipe your fucking ass. Habits are worse than falling in love, if you even know the word. Women and men, today's topic takes you to rehab. Please give a warm welcome to survivor, teacher, friend, spirit guide, and true blood AA meeting instructor and podcast host, Michelle Curiel from Sobriety Playbook podcast.
Thank you so much for having me on the show, Angel. I appreciate that introduction, man.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing to have you on. It's a humbling pleasure. And thank you so much for being here. I want to thank you for sharing your time and your knowledge and everything that you are with my listeners. It is season 5, and we're coming in with heat, and we're striking where the iron is hot. And I think this is one of the biggest topic that no one wants to talk about, but everybody is suffering through. Not only because people are programmed and listening and eating and tuning into and vibing with lower frequency and lower level frequency shit activities like using drugs and drinking, myself. And even working is a low-level activity to a point if it makes you miserable, right? But also connecting with low-level habits. And I think habits is to a point where habits is something that you take in and you don't, it goes into your subconscious and you're like, wait. It's normal. It's normal to have 2 beers after a Friday night. It's normal to get aggressive with your wife after you have those 2 beers on a Friday night, etc., etc. It's a domino effect. Now, please, before we even jump to the main conversation, I'm already ranting.
Yeah.
Curiel from the Sobriety Playbook podcast. She is here tonight to drop bombs of knowledge with all of us and to make deposits into the bank of knowledge. Michelle, please let us know how you got inspired to do this. Who are you? What is your podcast about, and where the listeners can find you?
Yeah, so my name is Michelle Curiel. I am 43 years old at this time. I was inspired to start my podcast as a way to just share my experience with other people. I ran into the arms of drugs and alcohol at the age of 14, and I didn't stop drinking or doing drugs until I was 39 years old.
Oh.
Yes. So at this point, next month on August the 8th, I will be celebrating 4 years of sobriety, being clean and sober from like all mind-altering substances, which is honestly something I never thought that I would be able to achieve.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Congratulations. I'm so happy for you. I'm happy for you because I can't say that, but I celebrate anybody else who can.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, it takes a lot of time, a lot of awareness, a lot of diligence and willingness to let go of all of the things that caused me to run to drugs and alcohol. You know, I had first started using marijuana at the age of 14, right? Like the summer right before high school. And then during freshman year, I started to do coke. And so I did that for about 4 years. And then I took a little hiatus whenever I moved to LA, actually, to pursue my modeling and acting career. So I put that my addiction on pause, and I started to drink a little bit. After I left LA and I returned back to San Antonio, that's whenever I started to do cocaine heavily. And then I slowly and surely started to become addicted to crack cocaine.
Okay. Okay. You know what? We just made this whole episode about you. Forget this. Where can they find you? We're gonna jump onto that story from the transition from San Antonio to Los Angeles, and from that's where we're gonna jump in, and then we're gonna go back. Okay, we're gonna talk about this.
Cool.
Okay, first of all, where can they find you?
So you guys can find me on YouTube at the Sobriety Playbook. I'm also on Instagram and TikTok and Spotify. So the Sobriety Playbook on all platforms, to be honest.
That's right. That's right. The Sobriety Playbook, the Sobriety Playbook on Instagram and also on YouTube. Ladies and gentlemen, please look it up. The Sobriety Playbook. Okay, let's go. Michelle Curiel. Okay, so you win. Okay, so a lot of people, like I mentioned in the beginning in the intro of the show, I myself need to drink a beer every single Friday. I myself came from a very dark background. People still think I'm a fucking tweaker because I have that habit of talking and just being jittery and just hyper, but that's just my energy. I'm high on life. And I learned how to be high on life because I have another addiction, which is Paranoid Radio Podcast and all my listeners. But before that, I was a fucking cokehead. Fucking heavily. I was wasting like $60 fucking almost every other 2 days and just fucking, how do you say fucking tail rating, rail training, whatever the fuck they're called. I was just going at it, bro. So I get it. But the point is, I didn't travel from point to point to point around the country trying to find myself while losing myself. Can you give us a little bit of that detail? What pushed you to come? So you were pursuing a modeling career. And a modeling acting career, you said, right?
Yes, I was.
Go for it. Tell me.
Yeah, so I was pursuing, ever since I was a little kid, from teachers, society, the media, just from the world is always teaching us that we need to reach outside of ourselves to be happy, right? So my idea was like, maybe if I become an actress, maybe if I become a successful model, then I will be happy. And I just kept chasing all of these things. And I never found what I was looking for.
Was it almost self-centered, do you believe?
I think that, one of the reasons why I had started using drugs and alcohol was not, I don't believe it was self-centered. It was because, well, in a sense, yes. Let me take that back. Yes. Because I was seeking attention. I was looking for love. I was looking for validation. I thought that maybe if I became a model, that people would love me. Maybe if I became a successful actor, that I would get the attention and the respect that I felt that I needed as a human being, not in a sense like I deserved it, but I was just looking for a sense of feeling complete and acceptance. So I never found it. Another one of the reasons why I had decided to continue using drugs was because I was a very energetically sensitive being. So if I walked into a house and someone had just passed away, like earthbound spirits would speak to me. And I was clairaudient, okay? So I had the ability to hear spirits that were like in between realms or still had attachments to the earth.
Oh God, this just became an evolutionary conversation. Wow. Okay, continue. I'm sorry, I'm blown away. So this is, it all connects. It
was just very overwhelming for me because I kept all of these experiences to myself. As a child, I didn't express any of this to my parents. I didn't tell any of my family members or my brothers or anything like that. In addition to being able to hear spirits, whenever I would walk into a room, I would just feel like energy shifts. If I walked into a house, sometimes I would feel like this huge energy, just like weight, like fall onto me. And I just wanted to step out of the doorway and not go back in because something happened in that house. Something traumatic happened there. And so whenever I started using drugs and alcohol, it's like my spiritual gifts went from on to off. So I felt like I could breathe whenever I was high or I was drunk.
Oh, that is next level shit. I thought this conversation was gonna go off. It might still be, right? Because like the reason I'm not trying to block you or anything, but like just give you an example. Just give you an example.
Yeah, of course.
Let me rewind. Okay. I ran into drugs because we had traumatized childhoods. I think most of the people here in LA that run into gangs is because they want to feel loved and accepted and have a family sense, a purpose, right? Okay. And also I ran into drugs because I felt safe. In a sense of physicality, like if that's even a word. I felt like I want to escape my problems and my stresses, but your problems are not this realm problems. Your problems are next level problems. Yeah. This is deep, bro. This is fucking deep. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just want to make an exception. Like, you know, people might relate to me, but there's people that relate to you. This is you're opening a whole different door here, a realm of spirituality. Sure. Okay, continue. Please continue, please.
Yeah, so I was just really overwhelmed by my life. You know, in addition to just hearing spirits and feeling energy whenever I would walk into a room, if I would walk next to somebody, I could feel their emotional pain. I could feel their physical pain. So for example, if someone was experiencing tremendous back pain or they had sciatica, like I would feel it in my body as if it was my own. And I did not know how to differentiate between their pain and my pain. So I assumed that these ailments and this pain that I was feeling was mine. And I would go to doctors after doctors and try to figure out like, what's wrong with me? Why am I experiencing this? And they would run numerous tests and things like that. And they'd be like, oh, nothing's wrong with you. Later, I just found out that I was an intuitive. I found out that I had the ability to pick up on other people's, emotional distress. Wow. I was an empath. I was very empathic. And so I did not know how to set emotional boundaries, and I didn't know how to not pick up other people's energy.
About emotional boundaries. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So how did you start coping, mixing into the drugs? Like, okay, this is deep, dude, because I'm visualizing what you're saying, and I can never tell you I know what you're feeling. Never. I could never that, but I could visualize it, and I want to be aware about it. And I could feel this. I'm walking through Target, let's say Walmart, and walking with my daughter wrapped around my neck, and she's holding me, and there's this couple that passes by me, and they're going through some shit, and right away it only takes a matter of seconds for me to feel it, and there goes my day, and there goes my attitude, and there goes my attitude towards the people I love. Wow. Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah. Yes. So for me, for example, now that I've been sober, now that I've emotionally detoxed, and we can get into that later if you would like, but I make sure that I do not go into low vibrational places in a sense. Okay. I know that saying like something is low vibe is being like in a judgmental way. So for example, like if I need to go to Walmart because that's the only place that has something that I need, most of the time I will order online and I'll go pick it up, or I will get there before like the Walmart people get there. And what I mean by that
promoting is like, Walmart.com.
so like I will get there before like 8 a.m. because usually Walmart people like to sleep in and stuff like that. So yeah.
Wow.
I'm just very mindful about the places that I go to.
Thank you for fucking with us. Thank you for fucking with ParanoidRadio.com. First of all and foremost, I gotta set the tone, just the truth of the truth. Okay. So let me know. So you went into drugs, you moved to LA, you were pursuing, you were trying to find yourself, but at the same time trying to avoid yourself because you are yourself. You cannot stop being yourself if you're yourself, if that makes any sense. So you came here pursuing something, trying to find yourself, right? And then you used drugs, and you got into alcohol. You went back to Texas where everything's bigger, and you got back into
even the lines, dude.
Get back into cocaine, right? And tell me about that right before we jump into your emotional detox. That's important.
So I started dating this drug dealer, and he was selling cocaine. And one day, me and his friends were partying, and one of his best friends was talking about crack. And so I convinced him to show me how to cook it. And so I started learning how to cook it myself. And I started smoking it like every single day, like all day. And before I knew it, I just started to pretty much lose all of my possessions. So everything started going to the pawn shop, started to sell drugs. I started to lose a lot of weight. My family was having a hard time trusting me. My life was pretty much falling apart. I was losing all of my connections to my family, and I was just partying like every single day and selling, not even to make money, but just to support my own habit.
I can relate. I can relate.
Yeah.
I'm a functioning addict. I can relate. I feel you there. It's very fun to see through the mirror, right? It's not fun. How do you say it? It's very shaky. It shakes me emotionally to see myself in the mirror. I'm seeing myself in the mirror right now while you're speaking. Wow. Okay, continue, please.
Yeah.
Do
so
talk, man.
It was intense because at the time, you know, I was smoking a ton of crack. And in addition to that, you know, I was just, you know how it is whenever you're doing coke, you can down like so many beers, like a 24 pack is gone before you know it, because you can just drink all night, right? And then in addition to that, I started to gain a ton of weight, which was interesting because I was doing coke, but I was drinking all of this beer, and then that was causing inflammation. And then I was like constantly going through like drive-throughs and eating fast food and eating bad food and things like that. So I became like 300 pounds. Yeah. So yeah, I think you saw like one of my posts earlier today on Instagram of pictures of me like before I got sober, and I was huge. So
I'm going through an inflammation process right now because I'm not doing coke or anything, but I am a drinker in the weekends. I have to have my 2 Modelos right after work. I'm shaving my head. Like today, I had to my 2 Modelos right now. Right? Like maybe 2 hours ago, I haven't been. I shaved my head, and you know, it's just a habit. I'm a functioning addict. I don't do cocaine anymore or anything. I believe it or not, I have a neighbor that does meth, and he has glass. He has broken windows all day. And I walk by him and I see him on one, and it's Monday for me. I got to go 4 more days to work. I got my day job, and I'm like, no, my babies, no, my babies, no, my babies. And then my babies includes my podcast too. So I'm like, if I lose this distraction and I stop riding this wave, I'm only going to become a bigger of a loser. And it takes a lot to wake me up. My best friend, Big Tank, which is the co-host of this show, he didn't only bring schedule to me. He didn't only bring me awakening, like to wake up. I'm not woke, I'm awakened. He also brought in some type of reality and sense of fatherhood, if it makes sense. So it's like in collaboration with everybody that's around me, I feed off their help to stay away from it, even though it's right in front of my fucking face. But please continue. Yeah. Please tell me your story. Continue telling me your story. So you learned how to cook it. You were already in the gutter.
Yeah.
What happened?
So it's interesting because whenever I reflect back on my addiction, like I went through phases. Like I would date some guy like for 7 years, and I would be addicted to like a certain drug. And then like I'd break up with this person after 7 years, and then I would get with another person. And so the next phase was like, okay,
7 years is a long time, dude.
It is a long time. It is a long time, but it's just interesting that it was just happened in 7-year phases, which is weird, but that's just the way that it was. And so the next person that I started to date, he was also a drug dealer.
And today is 7/7, and we're recording at 7 p.m. That's right.
Oh, that's
I'm
true.
sorry, I had to bring that in.
No, I'm glad you did.
Yes.
So I started to date another drug dealer, but this time, well, he was selling coke at the time as well. But I don't know if you've ever experienced this, or any of your listeners have experienced this, but for me, this is my truth, is like after a certain amount of time, like coke, crack just didn't get me high anymore. So I started to experiment with other things. And so I started to snort heroin, snorting heroin.
Okay.
And I did that for 7 years. And at the same time, I was using a lot of Xanax. I was taking, my doctor at that time had prescribed me 3 bars per day. So I was getting like 120.
Wait. Whoa. Okay. Oh shit. You were okay. All right. God
so I was
damn. You were on one.
It was bad because anytime that I would take Xanax, I had a tendency to black out. And then what I would end up doing was going to like stores and stealing things. And then in the morning I would wake up and there would be new clothes, new jewelry, and new things like that. And I remember at one point, I had asked my boyfriend, I said, hey, like, thank you so much for buying me this new clothes. And he's like, I didn't buy that from you. He's like, you brought that home from wherever you stole it from yesterday. And so that's whenever I realized, like, damn, like I really, really need to like get a grip on this stuff. And I didn't for like several years later, but
off your body language
mhm.
and off what you're telling me, I know you told me
Yeah.
you were an open book, but
Mhm.
it seems like it's hard kind of like speaking about it still.
No, it's not actually. I don't feel like it's hard to speak about it at all, to
You're
tell you
over
the
it.
truth. Yeah. Like, because it doesn't even feel like I have done so much work in my sobriety.
Mm.
Sometimes it's honestly what's hard, and maybe this is what it's coming from, my body language. Sometimes it's hard to remember
Okay.
because it feels like it's so far, like in the rear view mirror,
Mm.
that it wasn't even my life, to be honest with you.
Like you ascended.
Like what?
Like you ascended.
Well, for sure.
Yeah,
And I
yeah, okay.
definitely have.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
But
Okay, so
it's interesting.
let's jump into about a little bit into the emotional detox.
Mhm.
Okay, emotional detox, that is funky. I've heard about energy detox. I've heard
Mhm.
about detoxing from like fucking drugs, and I've heard about detoxing from like food and getting
Yeah.
yourself, pooping out all the bad stuff and shit. I've heard of all types of detox except for this. Explain
Mhm.
to me, what is this? And then please jump into details. How did you complete your emotional detox?
Okay, so emotional detox is basically just letting go of all the resentments, the fears, the anxiety, the grief, the trauma, anything that led me to drugs and alcohol. Because yes, you said like a lot of times people are led to drugs and alcohol because of trauma and stuff like that. And I too have been through traumatic events as well. It wasn't just being energetically sensitive that led me into the arms of drugs and alcohol. I've been kidnapped, I've been raped, I've been tortured, I've gone through emotional abuse, I've gone through sexual abuse, I've been in narcissistic abuse. I have been through an array of trauma.
How are you complete, dude? Wow.
What did you say? How am I what?
How are you still here? Like, how are you put together, man? Congratulations on making it this far. Jesus Christ.
Thank
Wow.
you.
Yes, it's amazing. Like, I can never compare. That is freaking crazy, dude. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
You just made me remember a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Tell me, detoxing from emotional. I have two more questions for you leading into to the final phases. I want to know, first is I have two questions. I'm gonna drop them on you right now. Your emotional response. How do you emotionally detox with detail? Like, how do you do it? How like, for example, like regular Joe like me with kids and wife and a regular day job, right? And then maybe you could relate with any other listeners. That's the first question. And the second question would be, let's just go with the first question. I'll edit this out. I don't want to interrupt the thought.
For sure. One other thing too that I just wanted to mention to anybody that's listening, is I just want to make sure that everyone's aware. Like, yes, I was addicted to marijuana and cocaine and crack, and then snorting heroin, and then eventually I started shooting up heroin. I was also addicted to shooting up meth and all kinds of antidepressants and anti-anxiety medications and all sorts of alcohol. So at the end of all of that, I was temporarily in a wheelchair because I kept overdosing on what I thought was heroin, but it was actually fentanyl. And then I had lost the ability to speak temporarily because not of anything physical, but because the drugs and the alcohol stopped working. And I was in so much fear that I was not going to be able to face my life without being under the influence of something, but I couldn't get drunk and the drugs didn't work anymore. And I had almost lost my left arm due to an abscess from shooting up constantly with dirty needles because I couldn't afford to buy new ones.
Get the fuck out. Oh my goodness gracious.
Yeah. So the
Wow.
drugs didn't work, and I knew that something had to change. And the thing that was terrifying and very upsetting to me, and I remember cursing at God one day, because there were many times whenever I tried to end my life, and I would just wake up cursing at God, like, why the hell am I still here? Or I would be woken up by paramedics from after flatlining off of fentanyl and my parents' bathroom floor and being dead, and then coming back to life, and then looking at the looks on my parents' face after they kicked down the bathroom door. And so I was very upset, because not only could I get drunk or high anymore, I couldn't die, but I knew that something had to change, right? So I
Michelle,
started to go, yeah, go for it.
Michelle, that is, oh my God, dude. Oh, how many more than an hour for this? Your story is astonishing.
Mhm,
It's amazing. The amount of pain
mhm,
you didn't only go through, but you put yourself through.
mhm.
Wow, dude.
Yeah,
That's, I'm shook. I'm sorry you had to go through that. And I'm thankful to God that you're here right now, to this
mm,
moment, sharing this with everybody else,
yeah,
with no fear in your heart, with no fear in your eyes.
mm-mm.
Thank you. Thank you for being
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm so happy to be here. And what's interesting now is that, and I'll get into the emotional detox in a second, but one of the things that I'm super grateful for is like actually going through all of everything that I've gone through. There is no part of me that feels regretful about anything that I've done. There's no regret about any of the consequences that I had to endure, or any of the pain and suffering that I had to go through, because essentially what I learned to do is transmute all of that suffering into peace and wisdom and liberation, and so that I can share my experience with other people that are stuck in the pits of hell here on earth, that don't know how to escape, but I can at least just share my story and share how I was able to escape from it.
Freaking testimony. That's a testimony. Oh
Yeah.
gosh. If you, do you mind if I ask, are you still an empath?
Oh, for sure.
What?
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
do you practice any of your talents? Do you put them to work?
Well, I'm an intuitive. So I'll give you an example. If I have a conversation with somebody and they just tell me, hey, like, I'm going through this situation, this is happening in my life, what I can do is just pinpoint like the inflection in their voice, the words that they use, their tonality, just their energy. And I can tell them exactly what it is that they need to do to let go of certain things, so that they can remove those subconscious blocks that they've placed in their way, and so that they can remove them and then just become the person that they were always been, to be honest. You know, it's really challenging for me, just to be honest, like, it's challenging for me to pick up on people's energy just through text. If I hear someone's voice and I can see you, like, that's a lot easier for me. Yeah. So
Okay, so you're still empathic, and that's amazing. That's beautiful. And you're now connected with it. And now, emotional detox. I want to get back into that. Let's go back into that. That's a lesson for all of us. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So emotional detox is like so transformative, and it's the only thing that was able to help me release from this addiction. So essentially, what an emotional detox is, just taking an inventory of my entire life. So it's going back as far as I can remember and looking at all of the pain that I endured, and looking at the root cause of my suffering, look at the root cause of my fear, look at the root cause of my trauma, and just getting to the point where I realized that I needed to change my perception. I needed to change my thinking. For me, it was just like I had gone through so much pain and so much trauma that I needed to learn to let it go. Like, for me, like, whenever I look at resentments, a resentment is close to the word sentiment. So there's like sentiment, like it sounds like so sentiment is to feel. So is again. So it's like feeling. So a resentment essentially is to feel something that's happened in the past. So I don't know if you've ever been in a situation, let's just say like you're at your 9-to-5 job and there's a coworker that's speaking to you and he says something to you that reminds you of something that happened in the past. And then in your mind, you're going back to that specific situation that happened
Resentment
in the past as if it's happening right now. So you're refeeling that situation as if it's happening right now. And it doesn't even have anything to do with the person that's in front of you, right? This person could be like a new coworker. Maybe you haven't even had a conversation with this person, but maybe you start projecting some fear or judgment towards this person because it reminds you of something that happened in the past. So for me, emotional detoxing was looking at those resentments, taking personal responsibility for judging people in the moment, looking at those fears and letting them go.
Amazing. Okay. And then once you let them go, what happened?
Once I let them go, what happened? I felt like there was a weight that had been lifted. And I realized like one of the biggest resentments that I needed to let go of was against myself, which I feel like maybe you have against yourself with what you're experiencing with your mom. So a lot of times there's like certain things that we've done in the past and we feel really guilty about them. We feel really shameful and we feel like we regret what occurred. And we kind of just like keep beating ourselves over the head about a mistake that had happened. But I would say like the number one resentment and the most important person that I needed to forgive was myself. And that was probably the most challenging thing for me. But once I was able to forgive myself, then I was able to just kind of like go through life and feel more free, feel more like weightless. I didn't feel so heavy. I didn't feel like I was trudging around the world with this like really heavy backpack full of guilt and shame and anxiety and depression and all these
and then try to hide it from the public.
And you're like wearing this mask in public trying to pretend like everything's okay, but on the inside like you're screaming.
Hey, you'll be surprised of how many people go through that every single day. You'll be surprised who has a bag the size of your fucking car on their right shoulder. It is absolutely insane the amount of people that go through emotional trauma and then hide it, specifically when it comes to like people that have I want to say backgrounds. Boom.
Yeah.
That is amazing, dude. That is amazing. Yeah. And you know what? I'm gonna be honest with you. I've shared in the beginning, at the ending of season 4, I mentioned to everybody, and you could go ahead and listen to it. It's on the air. Everybody can listen to it. The first minute and 30 seconds of episode 60 on season 4. I went in and I said, you know what? Season 1 was this. Season 2 was this. Season 3 was this. Season 4 was this. And season 5 is more things to come to flourish. And we're at full potential now. And I thank God and the listeners, first of all, God and the listeners, my family, my kids, and people like you that collaborate with me to make this happen. But if it wasn't for Paranoid Radio Podcast, Big Tank setting a schedule for me, and every single collaborator on every single episode and every single topic, and the creativity that God has blessed me with, I wouldn't be sane today. I would have been in jail. I would have been dead. I would have been probably fucking tweaked the fuck out. I was already fucking with tweak as it is. I would have been lost. So the point is, sometimes finding yourself is very near. Sometimes letting go of the pain and forgiving yourself is around the fucking corner. And I want to end that on a high, beautiful fucking note, because this is Paranoid Radio Podcast, and we had an amazing soul, somebody that has so much knowledge, so much emotional experience to share with everybody. If you want to get more of a glimpse on her, if you want to get more information about her, if you want to listen to the rest of her shows and everything she has to do and all the topics she goes through and all the other podcasts she's on, make sure you check out the Sobriety Playbook podcast. Please, Michelle, let them know where they can find you and give us the message for the day. What do you think the listeners should know? Something that they should know about you, or a piece of advice?
Yeah, so for sure, you guys can definitely find me on YouTube and Instagram and Spotify and TikTok as well at the Sobriety Playbook. But, you know, one of the things that I think that I want to let you guys know is Angel had mentioned finding ourselves, right? And to me, it was just a matter of like removing that fear, removing those resentments, removing the anxiety, removing like all of that emotional baggage. Because what happens is, you know, from the time that we're born, we're like this completely free spirit that's full of joy and happiness. And then as we go through life, like we start going through trauma, we start going through heartbreaks, you know, we start going through, there's just like life happens, right? And so that we start to build like walls around our hearts, and we start to protect ourselves from all kinds of different emotional toxins and things like that. And then we get to a point in life where it's like, you know what, maybe if I start drinking or I start using drugs, it will protect me. Or maybe I can just forget about all the things that have been happening. I can forget about the pain. I can forget about the sorrow that, you know, if I start drinking, then maybe it's going to relieve some of this anxiety. But eventually, most people get to the point where like that beer after work doesn't work anymore. That line doesn't work anymore. All those coping mechanisms no longer work. And then you get to the point where it's like, okay, you have to look at yourself in that proverbial mirror, and you need to take responsibility for your life. And then that's whenever, like for me, I started to look within. I started to shift my focus from looking on the outside for happiness, and I looked within myself. And then I said, okay, well, what is it that needs to change? There is only one thing that needed to change, and that was everything. There was only one person that needed to change, and that was me. So if anyone is looking for any type of guidance, like please just shoot me a DM on Instagram, and I'd be happy to work with y'all one-on-one.
Shout outs to Talking Roosters podcast host Rico. The dude, he's amazing. He's an amazing ranter. He's an amazing conspiracy theorist. But when I first recorded with him, he was also a little shaky. Hey, motivate yourself to do some video content, get yourself a social media platform, and keep rocking that shit out. Flash_news1. He's my deep state correspondent. Same thing. So much talent you've invested to you, so much talent you've committed to Paranoid Radio Podcast. Imagine what you would do if you had your own creation. You know, this is not just them too. Everybody that has the creativity inside them. Maybe you're not a podcaster. Maybe you're a constructor. Maybe you're a saxophone fucking player. I don't fucking know. I don't know. You're a freaking computer artist or whatever you want to call them. Find yourself. Create yourself. Don't be scared of that. And if you are scared of it, run into the storm. I'm gonna be honest with you. I had to fucking see myself in the mirror, reflected off people like you, and I'm pointing right at you. People like the people that like Big Tank, because you guys are all parts of me. Everybody's functioning like a fucking clock. Everybody's telling me, you know what, Angel, this is where you gotta go. You guys are guiding me through my whole fucking scenario, through my whole life. My kids are my biggest reflection of me, because that's where I cut out every other chain that I went through back in my fucking past and give them the best abilities and the best adaptation abilities ever, because that's what they got to do in life. Adapt. They don't have to be the fastest or the strongest or the freaking or the quickest or the smartest. No, they just need to know how to fucking adapt. Be survivalists like we are. And that's it. And finding yourself, creating yourself. And I'll be honest with you. It's not that hard. It grows inside, and you have to learn. Before you learn how to love your kids, before you learn how to love your job, before you learn how to love your hobbies, and before you learn how to job anybody or anything, learn how to love yourself. And that is what I picked up from you. If you learn how to learn yourself, dude, you're fucking unstoppable. You're unstoppable. That's the most beautiful thing. You know what, you said something in the beginning, how you perceive the world. You said, and 2 episodes ago with Cave Podcast, the last episode on season 4, I said something about how cada cabeza es un mundo. It's a saying in Spanish where every brain it's its own mind and every mind it's its own world. And how you perceive the world is how you're going to reflect off of it, which means the brain, for example, the brain, right? The brain never sees the light of day, but you know it's light outside through your eyes, right? However, your brain never sees the light of day. Your brain is encapsulated into a fucking skull, right? Yeah. And it never sees the light of day. However, you know it's day outside, and you're conscious about it and you're aware about it, right? That's what I'm fucking saying. Create how you perceive. The world is the world. Create your mind, change the way you perceive it, and watch it internally change. This is why I think we live in a simulation, because if you can hack that code, which is inside here, which is in your brain, you'll be able to fucking do something bigger. This is Paranoid Radio Podcast, the Sobriety Playbook Podcast, conjoined together in one massive bomb of knowledge and potential and emotional distress. And I'm calling out for help, ladies and gentlemen. Michelle Curiel, please find them at the Sobriety Playbook Podcast. Please let them know one more time where they can find you, and we close out the show.
Yeah, you guys can go ahead and find me on YouTube, Instagram, Spotify, and TikTok at the Sobriety Playbook.
Sobriety Playbook, the Sobriety Playbook on Instagram. Make sure you check them out on YouTube, and please, you got to start off. You got to get an Apple Podcast. That's where it's at.
Yeah, I definitely will. Yeah, just to let you guys know, I have over 300 episodes on YouTube.
Wait, how long each episode?
Since every episode's different. I have a bunch of YouTube shorts. I have some videos that are 20 minutes long. I have an hour-long shows. I also have 4-minute shows. So it's just anything that you need. I mean, it's all there. And there's tons of playlists as well.
You're phenomenal. You're phenomenal. And I congratulate you on your path. I congratulate you for your wins. And I celebrate your losses as well, because without your losses, I wouldn't have you here in the show today, and the listeners wouldn't have you on their ears. That was amazing. That is over 300 fucking episodes. Make sure you check them out on YouTube. That is amazing. Send me your links right now. Please don't take.
I sure will.
Do not spend no more 30 seconds fucking TikToking. No, none of that. Send me your send me your descriptions. If you have a link tree to all your shit, whatever you have, whatever you want me to add to my jobs, to my paranoidradio.com, and I'll put you on the drop site. This is amazing because you have so much content. This is what I need to feed off and contribute to. I need to contribute to. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get the whole segment, this whole episode, audio and video. I'm gonna put into a Dropbox link, and I'm gonna send it to you so that you can download it and have it unedited, unfiltered, and you could use it however you want. And obviously, I'm gonna edit it, not the video. We do the video. Everything here is raw as fuck, except for the audio. The audio I have to stitch it with some sounds and a segment, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But beyond that, you'll have everything at your disposal, and we're crystal clear how we do our operations here. Thank you so much for being a Paranoid Radio Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you check out Paranoid Radio Podcast on all podcast platforms, absolutely free, and drop a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It allows everybody else to enjoy the show as much as I enjoy making it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much, Michelle Curiel, for being here, the Sobriety Playbook Podcast, and have a blessed night.
But you